r/AskReddit by Reddit tells. Doctors and nurses of Reddit who have delivered babies to mothers who clearly cheated on their husbands. What was that like? Paramedic here. Our crew delivered a full birth in the back of our rig. We have 2 paramedics in the back with the PT, a driver, and I'm working on the laptop listening to info they are telling me to add to the report. All of a sudden, it goes kind of quiet. I hear the mother let out a very loud "oh shit, it's not white." She was very white. Few more seconds of silence, and I'm like, the driver alarm, beeping light on the center console sent from a button in the back, was pressed 2 times quickly, generally meaning to turn around, to get info for the report. I turn from the front passenger seat, to see a very dark skin colored baby, I'm guessing Cuban. I can't see the mother's face, but all I see is her shaking her head. She begins to worry, saying that her husband is meeting us there at the hospital. He can't see this. I just continue the report, and I'm not sure what the problem is, but I guess we'll see when we get there. Flash forward to the ER. We stop outside the ambulance bay. I get out to open the doors, and am met by another very white heavyset guy in a uniform shirt, dress pants and glasses. Asked me if his wife was in there, and she was in labor when he was coming home. Hospital policy dictates that we can't have random people, that we can't confirm identity that close to the rig when opening doors for PT safety. Security is there quick, holds him back a bit. We open the doors, roll the PT and her newborn out. He takes one look, sees the color of the baby. Jaw drop, look of despair, like a 1,000-yard stare. Even security had a look like, wow, that woman fucked up, and this guy knows it now. Wife, babe, I can explain every bit of this. I know it looks weird, but I can. We wheel her into ER. No sign of husband. Last I knew, the husband didn't check into the hospital as a visitor. I'm assuming he went home to pack his stuff. So a friend of mine, he is unfortunately dead, had cancer and he was dating a girl for about 2 years. He then discovered he had cancer and that he would live at best 1 more year. His girlfriend announced to him a week later that she was pregnant. They were both white. He kept on saying that life is a joke. He was happy because he would have a baby now, but sad because he would die in a year. Anyway, 9 months later the baby was born, and it was black. He then disappeared for weeks, and we learned that he had died a month later. Felt so ducking sorry. Damn, what a shame to die with that on your mind. That's an oof, a yikes, and RIP all rolled together. In high school my gym teacher was married to the biology teacher, who was also really good friends with my math teacher. Always saw them chatting and walking together. Well, the BO teacher got pregnant, and when she brought the baby in there was an unignorable resemblance to the math teacher. Her husband ended up driving to the nearest hospital and shooting himself dead in the parking lot. Was a big scandal at our relatively small private school. One of a few actually. We had a very sweet blonde-haired blue-eyed mom and dad along with their entire extended family in the room for a delivery one busy afternoon at work. Think aunts, uncles, cousins, grandma, and grandpa too. The baby is born, and as the doctor places her on the mom's chest the first words out of her mouth are, "That's not my baby. That's not my baby." The baby in question, still attached at the umbilical cord, has beautiful dark curly black hair and dark skin. The nurse looks at her and tells her that this is definitely her baby because she's still attached to you, and she, not so quietly, tells the nurse, "There's no way. I never slept with a black man. It's not mine." The father is standing there silent, not sure what to do. A long awkward silence fills the room. We clean her and baby up as cheerfully as we can. We see the extended family filter out of the room and the father leave to get a cigarette. About 10 minutes later a tall black guy walks up to our front desk asking how to get to the patient in question's room. A friend of mine tells the story of his aunt giving birth, in the 1970s or 80s, to a baby that at first glance appeared to be of Asian descent. Aunt and her husband are both Caucasian Midwesterners from long lines of the same sort, going back to Germany. There was evidently a shocked moment, and then the aunt's father, my friend's grandfather, quipped, "Well, they say 1 in 7 babies is born Chinese," and everyone laughed. The tension broke, long enough for the doctor, also a white Midwesterner of German stock, said that likely the kid's color is just off due to the events of the birth. That baby is now a man in his 30s or 40s and looks like your typical Midwesterner. He just had some tinge to his skin for a few hours following the birth, plus some dark hair at birth that has since lightened up. Anesthesiologist here. C-sections are typically done under spinal anesthesia, and we're the ones at the head of the table keeping the mother calm and talking her through the procedure while the surgeons operate. I've seen it more than once, but I remember one in particular when the parents were both very Caucasian and the baby was very much not. The actual father obviously had to be very dark-skinned. At delivery, when the not father saw the baby, he just looked down at his wife, who was starting to cry, and calmly said, "You ducking law," and walked out. She started screaming for him to come back, but there wasn't much she could do since she was, still being operated on. She lost it to the point I eventually had to sedate her just a bit because she was in danger of injuring herself. As far as I know, her husband never came back to the hospital. I don't know what happened after that. This isn't exactly what you are looking for, but my mom is black and my dad is white. My mom had kids with her first husband who were black, and they were born somewhat light-skinned, which is common among black children. So she was expecting this, but when she gave birth to my eldest full brother, she thought something was wrong because of how pale he was. Nurse said that happens, and he will get color. Fast forward to when it's time for them to go home. The nurses that are now on duty refused to let her go because obviously there had been some sort of mix-up. She was literally accused of trying to steal a white baby, and even with my dad there, apparently this kid was still too white to be mixed race. This was the early 80s, so crazy stuff went down in hospitals. Mind you, we lived in an area where mixed race families were non-existent at the time. Another fast forward 16 years, and my brother has a mountain biking accident and at B. He is literally hanging on by a thread. His friend calls, and my mom rushes over to the hospital. His friend is literally there saying yes, this is his mom, and she has her ID. Bro didn't have an ID though, and they are refusing to let her in. They ask for clarification, if he is adopted or something, but apparently, the truth was the wrong answer. Hospital security escorted her out, and she had to have my dad come, who by the way, was just let right in. I highly doubt under any other circumstance they would erroneously not let a parent see their injured child because they don't look like them, but my mom being black with a very light-skinned child was apparently an issue. But anyway, back to the question. I wonder how many families have had drama thanks to genetics being so unpredictable. If my mom was white with a black husband, I'm certain everyone would think she cheated on my dad with a white guy. Heck, people even accuse my mom of using an egg donor. Sometimes genes even skip generations, so a trait that hasn't popped up in a few generations can just randomly show up. I knew a guy who had a vasectomy and his wife got pregnant. He accused her of cheating throughout her pregnancy until the baby was born, and paternity tests proved it was his. So he went back to get his vasectomy redone by the same doctor who botched it in the first place. Well, his wife got pregnant again with twins. And so this guy was sure that his wife had cheated on him this time. He basically emotionally abused that poor little woman for her entire pregnancy, abandoned her for much of it, called her a law, etc. When the babies were born, paternity tests proved that they were his. They ended up suing the doctor who performed the botched vasectomy, and the wife divorced the husband for how horribly he treated her throughout her pregnancies. Okay, story from a friend of my brother's. She worked as a nurse and a woman and her husband came in. They were both white, and she delivered a child that was black. The husband immediately starts saying WTF while she is going on and on about dome and trays and everything. He orders a DNA test. While this is going on, her mother and stepdad show up. The stepdad is black. After the testing is done, the DNA test ends up showing that the baby is the stepdad's. Her husband instantly dropped her and cut ties. Edit, in response to some comments. This didn't happen over the course of a couple of hours. Husband hung out, albeit reluctantly, until things were conclusive. Once testing showed it wasn't his baby, they tested the stepdad. Probably suspected something. I wasn't there, I don't know the deeper details. I have a white friend who is a superman of a dad. When his third child was born, she was obviously of mixed race. His white wife had an affair with a black man. The wife also had substance abuse issues before this pregnancy and was no longer dependable or stable as a mother. So my friend immediately divorced her and took custody of the kids. All of them. He's been raising his 2 bio kids and the third child, who isn't technically his, for the past decade. She's his princess and he loves her exactly like the other 2. Edited to answer a couple of questions. He is a straight man who has not remarried. He's done this all on his own, dated here and there, but nothing serious yet. He's too busy with 3 kids, full-time career, and a small business to run. Also, BO dad to the third child waived his rights immediately when he found out about her birth. He was mom's dealer and their fling was a one-time thing that resulted in pregnancy. He had zero interest in fatherhood. Edited again to add, some people say how they could never raise another man's child, especially one that was a product of adultery, but you have to consider that my friend went through the entire pregnancy preparing for this baby that he thought was his. So he bought the baby gear, painted a nursery, went to the doctor appointments, etc. He was heavily invested in this baby before she was ever born. He already loved her and felt she was his, so it wasn't a big leap for him to take her on as his own. Probably going to get buried, but still wanna share. Not my story, it's the story of my dad's friend. In high school, my dad's friend Cole was always into this girl Cindy, but she was always dating this one guy Jimmy. Jimmy breaks up with Cindy and she goes off the rails sleeping with everyone. Carl sees it as his chance to be the good guy and starts dating her. I'm not sure, but they either had a Ross and Rachel thing where they kept on breaking up and getting back together. She broke up with him, or that she was always cheating on him. Especially if Jimmy was hinting at them getting back together. They never did though, and he'd just sleep with her. But Carl never listened to my dad or his friends because of blind love. She was perfect in his eyes. So high school is over and Carl goes to the army. They weren't officially dating, but every time he was able to come back he'd end up with her a night or two. My dad and his friends knew that she was sleeping around the whole time, but Carl didn't care. Eventually, while he was still serving, she convinced him that they were dating again. He proposed to her and she looked around for a house for them that he paid for with his army money. He comes back for good and they get married. A year later they have a beautiful baby girl together. That baby girl is his everything. This guy grew up a migrant worker and now he has his high school sweetheart, a home, a decent job, and his own little princess. 5 years later his wife gets pregnant again. This time she has a baby boy. Now he has to start working more to be able to care for the new baby, while mom continues to be a stay-at-home mom. When the son is around 2 and the girl is around 7 he comes home to divorce papers and all his clothes packed up. Turns out the lovely house the wife had to have was because it made her the next door neighbor to Jimmy. This entire time she was still sleeping with him despite him also having a partner. The little girl and baby boy Carl thought were his weren't. They were Jimmy's kids, and Cindy knew it. Jimmy's partner had left him, so he finally wanted to be a family man and Cindy jumped at the chance, kicking out Carl and divorcing him. He went into a depression and ended up losing his job because of it. I'm not sure what happened after that, but I hope Carl found a nice loving girl in the end. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this to get so popular. I just wanted to add that this was a story, it really did happen, that my dad had told me when my ex-boyfriend cheated on me and I was thinking about getting back together with him again because he was oh so sorry. My dad had to watch as his friend went through all of this and they couldn't do anything because he didn't want to be saved. He didn't want the same thing to happen to me, so that's why he talked to me about this when I was 14 and dating a known player. My parents are very big on learn from my mistakes, and I'm very grateful for that. Though in this instance it was learn from my friend's mistakes, especially since had I not been told this I would have had this exact thing happen to me, but with him having kids with other women. So those of you saying things like, he was asking for it, and how could he get her to respect himself when not even he did, you're right. If all of your friends are telling you someone isn't good for you, listen to them. Edit 2. So a lot of people seem confused. First, Carl stopped serving right before they got married, but he still worked in a job that requires long hours and Cindy was a stay-at-home mom, so she still had plenty of time to cheat, even though he wasn't gone for months/weeks on end. Second, I was pretty young when my dad told me this, so I didn't think to ask how come he never thought it was weird that their neighbor happened to be signed as ex that she frequently left him for in high school. I just thought he must have thought it was one hell of a coincidence. As someone else said, it's hard to see the truth when you're wearing rose-colored glasses. Third, as for the house situation, that's also foggy. I'm not sure if he felt bad about having to kick them out. I think Jimmy was only renting the house next door. If he thought letting her have the house would make her change her mind. Or if even though they used his money to buy it, it was under her name. Fourth, I think he still tried to be in the kid's life after, but neither of the birth parents wanted him to, and despite the fact that he truly did love them, he just could look at them without being reminded of what happened. Thanks for watching. Please like the video if you enjoyed. Leave a comment with your own thoughts or stories. Subscribe to the channel for more videos. Don't forget to hit the bell notification to be notified of more videos I upload.